flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the second round of the Alpha Touring Challenge for season number 8. We are here at Watkins Glen, New York at Watkins Glen International, and my name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight, 1080p 60 frames a second, as we gear up for yet another round here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. And folks, I am excited for what is in store as drivers gear up for qualifying, currently making their way out on the track and getting those tires ready to go as they warm up for the 15-minute qualifying that they have here today. And you could almost kind of consider it even a little bit of an extra practice that you could kind of add in there as well. As I'm looking through the field, as I'm looking to see what drivers have made it this week, what drivers have decided to take a off week, it looks like we've got quite the stacked field as expected here for the folks at Alpha Touring Challenge. However, a few drivers that we do not see, particularly those that made it in the top 3 last week, Wojciech being one of the first drivers to come to mind here. And as I'm looking through the field here, Micah Hendricks, also another driver that is missing in today's race. He came away with the win for the sprint race for last week's race at Long Beach. So we're looking along here with Edward Gorman, the 137 Honda driver, as again, drivers getting their first hot lap in here before we see any official times being set on the left-hand side of our screens. But once that starts to come in, then we will start to see how drivers are really going to handle this track, at least in short runs. Won't really give us too much insight into the long run sort of things. And as I hear someone in the background actually finding themselves a little bit too deep and into the fence here. But either way, either how, we've got a few drivers that have not made it for today's race, but that is A-okay. We've got plenty of drivers here today that are ready to go here for Watkins Glen, and I gotta say, I am rather excited to see how Watkins Glen is going to shape up for today's both sprint race as well as the feature. From what we saw last week at Long Beach, things were very chaotic with how many drivers that were out on track, and with how tight that Long Beach is, it can make for some very precarious situations. But here at Watkins Glen, there is a lot more room to work with. However, it is a very, very tricky track in of itself. From what I have read in the Discord chat before we started today's events, that seems to be the case for some drivers that decided that, you know what, today's maybe not the day, and have decided to take it behind the wall, or maybe not even necessarily show up at the track at all here. But needless to say, it is great to see how many drivers are out on track here currently, as well as in the field in general. A few drivers that are still in their pit stalls here. Jerome Bojules as well as Mark Crawford are the only 2 drivers that are not out on track here at the moment. So again, out of the, I believe it was 27, 28 drivers that we have here, it is quite a busy track here at Watkins Glen. But even so, you can see just how much room that drivers have here compared to last week's race at Long Beach, where things were chaotic right off the gate. We're waiting to see who is going to be the first driver to come across the line and set a time here. It looks to be Logan McKenzie might be one of the first one. There it is. As it comes up on the left-hand side of our screens, and I just realized that I've had the music going there for quite some time. It probably couldn't even hear it anyway, but either way. Logan McKenzie coming across the line with a 158.804, but only 1/100th of a second behind that, Andrew Parente with a 158.81. So very close here between the 04 and the 15 machines as they get those tires warmed up and they really start to dive in here into their qualifying runs. Now we're going to take a moment to ride on board with Slugnificent, who we saw last week have some pretty good success here as well. I'm trying... Well, because his real name is being used in the point scoring, I'm not able to find him at the moment. He might even be Micah Hendricks, who I thought was missing earlier. But either way, nonetheless, we saw Slugnificent last week doing quite well in the challenging race at Long Beach, and already sitting up here in 4th in timing and scoring, and for his starting positions here in the second row at the moment. Things are looking promising here for Slugnificent if he can keep the pace up and start to hopefully improve on that pace here as well. He currently sits up just a little over, almost 0.2 of a second behind Andrew Parente, who currently sits in 3rd. So definitely going to have to try and find some time here as they are about to cross the line here, and we'll see exactly if Slugnificent has managed to pick up the pace here this time around. Logan McKenzie across the line, and Slugnificent, a very great time here from Slugnificent, a 158.270 to put himself on provisional pole. Logan McKenzie back into 2nd place. Micah Hendricks, the man who I thought wasn't here and who I also thought was Slugnificent, getting myself all sorts of confused here, but either way, Micah Hendricks now sits at the top, a 157.8, the first driver to crack into the 1-minute 57-second range. While we have just under 10 minutes left to go here in qualifying, that is more than enough time, I'm certain, for a lot of these drivers to see what they can put out here at Watkins Glen and how things are going to shape up. But after last week's race, we have excuse me, as I'm getting myself all confused here again, but after last week's race, currently, for the team championship, Yellow Flag Motorsports currently holds the lead with Second Breakfast in that 2nd place spot. Real Friends Racing in 3rd, and Breakfast for Dinner in 4th place. Curb Your Enthusiasm in 5th place, just to round out the top 5 teams here at the moment. Yellow Flag Motorsports with 88 points at the moment. Second Breakfast with 67 points. Almost 20 points separating both Yellow Flag Motorsports and Second Breakfast. Real Friends Racing, 51 points at the moment in that 3rd place position. Being that it's only the first race, though, it is not much to go by and not indicative of what we will see here throughout the season. And I like to keep myself a little bit, not necessarily too much in the dark, but I don't want to spoil it for myself by going back and looking too deeply at past seasons and so on and so forth, because things can always change. Teams can have different drivers, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different things that can happen season to season, and I don't necessarily want to purely go off of last season or the season before. The list goes on, but the racing is just about to get going here, as we are about 6 minutes before we see the checkered flag here for qualifying, and we get ready for our 20-minute sprint race here today at Watkins Glen. And I gotta say, after what I saw from last week and how things kind of worked out for Long Beach, and with this format that they have instilled for this season, again, that being the 20-minute sprint and the 30-minute feature, it seems to have produced some excellent racing, and I'm certainly excited to see how things progress going forward. And looking at things at the moment, Micah Hendricks still sitting on pole with Slugnificent right behind him. Logan McKenzie in that third place spot, Matt Zepka in fourth place, and John Lazan in that fifth place position here at the moment. We won't go through too much of the field as far as running through the order, as things can always change here in qualifying. And Michael Keithley in chat here saying a good hello. Michael, thank you for joining us here today for the second round of the Alpha Touring Challenge. Dan McFarlane in the chat as well, giving a shout out to Micah Hendricks here as well. And Charisma coming in as well with Kick Some Butt Breakfast for Dinner. A good shout out here for some of the teams out here today. Breakfast for Dinner drivers, David Bauer, James Carr, and Justin Rhodes. Justin Rhodes here in the number 84 machine, currently sitting in that 13th place spot. His other teammates here at the moment, and if I can find them here through the list of other drivers, David Bauer here in that 7th place position. So, out of the two Breakfast for Dinner drivers that we have out here on track at the moment, David Bauer in the top 10, while his teammate looks to try and improve his position here as well. But David Bauer looking to potentially work his way into the top 5 and have a really good chance at having an early fight for the top 4 and maybe even top 3 positions. At least for the sprint race, things will get shaken up as we head into the feature, but we won't worry about too much about that, as we still haven't even taken the green flag for our sprint race here today. Micah Hendricks, again, still your leader at the moment, and still the only driver to have managed to work his way into the 1 minute 57 second range here at Watkins Glen in that 473 Honda. I gotta say, that looks like a mighty fine machine out there, as he looks calm and collected. And there it is, John Lazan, the number 77 driver. The Breakfast for Dinner, looks like the Breakfast for Dinner. That's the second breakfast. Makes sense now. John Lazan with team's second breakfast here in the number 77 machine, working his way into that second place spot, and going to be starting alongside Micah Hendricks here, potentially with only 2 minutes left to go here in qualifying, and before we get ourselves ready for the 20-minute sprint here tonight. And I gotta say, these drivers just make it look absolutely easy here at Watkins Glen, and pushing it to the very, very limit with these cars here as well. Every single one of these drivers out here on track is very well experienced and has spent plenty of time behind the wheel, be it virtual or real life, and definitely knows what they're doing here. So it's great to see a very experienced field out here and putting on some great racing here for us tonight on a lovely Monday night. And what a better way to end off a Monday night for at least us here in the Midwest, and potentially for those there on the East Coast as well, depending on how early of a bedtime that you might have. But some great racing that we can look forward to here in just a minute, as qualifying just about to be completed, as we have just under a minute left. Micah Hendricks, he's going to take it back behind the wall, as he is still your provisional pole sitter with a 157.69. No pun intended. John Lazan with a 157.81 in that second place spot. And Slugnificent, a 158.12. And Slug doing a very, very great job of doing all that he can to try and crack his way into that 157 range, but I think he might be happy with that pace overall. Logan McKenzie very close behind him as well, just a few hundredths of a second behind Slug in that fourth place position. David Bauer looks to be on a hot lap here, and right as we were going to try and get an onboard lap with him, there it is, the checkered flag flies, and right on cue, we get ourselves ready to go for our sprint race here today for the second round of the Alpha Touring Challenge here at Watkins Glen. And up in your front row, we have Connor Acatella, Raymond 2, Andrew Parente, David Bauer in your second row, Edward Gorman and Matt Zepka in your third row, Logan McKenzie, Slugnificent in your fourth row, John Lazan, Micah Hendricks in the fifth row, Auguste Blondel, Eric Statzer in your sixth row. As we move ourselves down the grid here, Mike De Almeida, Justin Rhodes in your seventh row, Kevin Clark and Peter Urban in your eighth row, Aaron Law and Ethan Oring in your ninth row, Noel Fulgensi and Craig Laudenslager in your 10th row, Trevor Lambert-Lee and Scott Wiebe in your 11th row, Michael Zepp, Zach Perry in your 12th row. And moving on down the grid, Kirk Lane, Jerome Bajulis, Adrian Fedorowski, Mark Crawford, and Kirby Govilian, rounding out our field here today. A few drivers that I did not get a chance to look at before the start of the race here, and that is going to be on me for that one. So I apologize if I got a couple names wrong here, but again, I do intend to learn everyone's name over time here. So again, I apologize if I get it wrong this time around, but we will get it right in the future as we just await for the lights to count away here and for these drivers to set off for the first time here at Watkins Glen International, the second round of the Alpha Touring Challenge for season number 8. And there it is. You can hear the turbos just chirping away. And we will have to fix that here in a moment. We will do that after things are all said and done here. But Connor Acatella, Raymond 2, they are going to be side by side. Andrew Parente trying to find his way in on the inside of Andrew Parente. Raymond 2, they're going to be side by side. And taking a little bit further back as we head through the S's and trying to capture as much of this field as we can. And the blimp camera providing a great view as we come through the S's, and we got a car going backwards. It's Raymond 2, the 996 driver, and it is chaos. Out on track, drivers scrambled all over the place as drivers try to navigate their way through. No caution will fly here as Connor Acatella, still your race leader. Andrew Parente in second, Edward Gorman in third. David Bowers in that fourth place position, hasn't moved from where he started. Logan McKenzie in your fifth place spot to round out the top 5. As more of these drivers try and really get themselves settled out here and find a little bit of room to work with. And ultimately, if they can capitalize on the mistakes that drivers ahead of them make, they're going to do so. But they run the risk of also getting themselves involved in that same incident if they are not careful. As we've already seen it here in the opening lap for our for our sprint here today, excuse me. Looking up at the front of the field, Edward Gorman right on the tail of Andrew Parente. The number 15 driver feeling a little bit of pressure here as a majority of the field starting to see a little bit of separation, but not much more than barely a second here, if that. And Edward Gorman finding a good run here. To the tail of Andrew Parente, but Andrew doing a great job through the S's, building up a little bit more pace. But the draft here of these touring cars is absolutely impressive, and Edward Gorman taking advantage of the long straight as they head into the bus stop. Continuing to put the pressure on, but looking a little bit further back here, we've got a great battle between Jerome Bajules and Kirk Lane side by side as they come out of the S's and onto the long straightaway, about to enter into the bus stop, and it's going to be Kirk Lane to hit the brakes first as Jerome Bajules with the inside line as well there. Not exactly the ideal spot to take that turn. Well, maybe not actually. Anyway, anyhow, it's Jerome Bajules able to break away from that battle here, but Michael Zepp, big trouble for the 230 Audi. As we see battles developing all over the track here, Noel Fulgenci going to be under fire here from Zach Perry, the number 56 machine. Currently, the battle for 13th. As Noel doing a phenomenal job at the moment, but Zach Perry going to have some good openings here at, I mean, it seems like he's being a little cautious here. Or maybe it's just the camera's playing tricks on my eyes and it just looks that way. But either way, Zach Perry just under a quarter of a second behind Noel in that number 97 machine. Tuning back up just a little bit further ahead of the field. The battle for 7th place developing Micah Hendricks in that 473 Honda. Trying to get a little bit of distance, separating himself from John Lazan, the 77 Hyundai. Currently in 8th place, but also under fire from Matt Zepka in the 490 machine, the teammate of Micah Hendricks. We'll ride on board here for just a moment with Zepka. Just kind of get a good listen and a good bird's eye view of what it's like to chase a fair chunk of drivers here at Watkins Glen. Just a little bit of an onboard view there with Matt Zepka for just a little bit. Just appreciating some of the sights and sounds here at Watkins Glen as we tune back over to Noel Fulgenci and Zach Perry. Currently the battle for 12th place, the number 97 machine trying to do everything in his power to get away from Zach. We'll take a look on the nose camera of the number 56 Hyundai. getting almost right on the rear wing of that 97 machine and gets a run onto the inside as they work their way through the S's. Zach Perry is going to have the speed here. Is he going to be able to carry it down the straightaway and into the bus stop? And I think he might just be able to do so. And it might come down to braking, and I think it will. Let's see who's going to be the one to brake first. And it's Zach Perry. Noel Fugensi takes advantage of it. He's going to move up ahead. And oh, Zach Perry, just a little bit too much beans on the exit of the bus stop, and he's taking a Tokyo Drift style. Wow. Zach Perry, a domino effect there for the 56 driver, but a great recovery, and wow, look at this. A great pack of drivers with Edward Gorman kind of leading it. He's got a little bit of a gap between the rest of them, but Andrew Parente, David Bauer, Logan McKenzie, Slugnificent, Micah Hendricks, and even John Lazan and Matt Zepka, all right in the mix here. In the battle for what could technically be considered second place here, as Edward Gorman, all it takes is one mistake for the 137 driver, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers that he's gonna unfortunately see fly right on by him. If that's what happens. I don't hope that it does, but things can happen, and in the sport of racing, anything can happen. Right on board here with Micah Hendricks for a second, as he's right on the tail of Slugnificent and down the straightaway, taking advantage of that draft, but going to be very cautious here through the bus stop. There is a lot of drivers to have to navigate around here. Elbows are definitely out here for all of these drivers at the moment. They are fighting to their wits' end. Door-to-door contact between the 14 and the 04 machine, but they keep it moving and grooving. Side by side, two wide action as we're 5 laps into the action here at Watkins Glen in the hour-long sprint that we have here today, or at least the first race that we have here today. I was a little incorrect on the layout for today's race, and I do apologize for that at the beginning and during qualifying when I mentioned that, but I like surprises. That's all right. That just means more great racing that we get to witness here tonight as Scott Weave, Jerome Bajules. The battle for 16th underway here. Just a little bit of action back here towards the tail end of the field. But tuning back up here to Matt Zepka and John Lazan. They are door to door there as they go through turn 1 and now through the S's. A little bit of distance separating them now. Not quite banging doors as they were just a moment ago. And it appears to be John Lazan. He's going to have the speed advantage through the S's, but on the straightaway, Zepka not taking advantage of the draft there, but still right on the tail of John Lazan, so he's definitely still got the pace. He's got the speed there. Probably doesn't even need the draft at that point. But nonetheless, Zepka here going to remain on the tail of John Lazan as Micah Hendricks towards the tail end of this pack is starting to see both John Lazan and Zepka start to fall behind just a little bit here. And even they're starting to pull away little by little. Just up ahead. Oh, wrong way. Andrew Parente, though, going to be not right next to Slugnificent. as they head up to the heel. Slugnificent doing a phenomenal job here in the 14 Honda. Logan McKenzie doing all that he can to try to find an opening around that 14 driver. But it is not proving to be an easy thing here at Watkins, and that's not necessarily too ill-familiar as far as Watkins Glen is concerned. This is definitely not an easy passing track, if you will. You're definitely going to be relying a lot on your competitors to be making critical mistakes here. Side-by-side action, 3-wide action as we head into turn 1. Wow. Andrew Parente, John Lazan, they remain side-by-side. Matt Zepka giving a little bit of a push there to Parente. Micah Hendricks, he's able to wiggle his way out of that and is now trying to catch back up to Logan McKenzie, the 04 machine, as Andrew Parente staying right on the side of John Lazan as they come out of the S's and onto the long straight, heading to the bus stop. Inner loop bus stop, however you'd like to call it here. Okay, so after I was a little bit confused, and I should have read the announcement when it was posted, but because I've learned new information and I'm going to be sharing it with you folks now, the reason why there is an hour-long race here today instead of the usual 20-30 format that we saw from last week, that was changed. That was changed for today with there being the 15-minute qualifying and then the 60-minute race with the top 10 qualifiers inverted. That was something I should have known before we started the race here today, but again, as I am learning this just now, I will gladly share it with you folks at home for those of you watching who would like to maybe know why that may be. Nonetheless, now that I've cleared the air for myself and things make a lot more sense, once this is all said and done, there will not be another race after this, as the Heat 1 might indicate on the top left of your screen, so you could pretend that isn't there. But nonetheless, we are only 15 minutes into our hour-long race here today, and things are still spicy here for every single one of these drivers. Slugnificent, David Bauer, they're right next to one another, side by side, as they are about to enter into the heel of the boot here at Watkins Glen. Bauer able to work his way out ahead of the 14 driver, but Slugnificent still gonna be right alongside as they head into the heel. Very, very fast right-hander here that you can carry a lot of momentum through. But got to be careful here into this left-hander. Very easy to get yourself spun out. And also, to just overdo it as in general, just trying to make your way through that turn. It's very easy to just go a little bit too fast, a few mile an hour too quick, and you're in the wall. I speak from experience. Anyhow, Connor Acatella gonna be under fire here potentially from Edward Gorman as the 137 driver right on the tail of that 55 Hyundai. And Connor at the moment trying to do all that he can, but Edward Gorman, according to timing and scoring, might have the pace difference as they come down the straightaway, and it's not going to matter here as the draft is going to be in favor of Edward Gorman. Who's going to be the one to hit the brakes first? A little bit hard to tell there. It looks like they both potentially hit at the same time. But Gorman gonna fall off the interval here between himself and Connor by just a tenth of a second. But that isn't gonna stop Edward at all in this fight here for the lead. Back to the exciting battles that we have here a little bit further back between Logan McKenzie, Micah Hendricks side by side between these two. Yellow Flag Motorsports and Curb Your Enthusiasm Autosport drivers going at it here, as well as the Breakfast for Dinner. Pretty much all of these teams kind of intermingled with one another. We've even got Andrew Parente as well, which I have to go back and... Well, anyway. Well, that quite didn't do it what I wanted to. But Andrew Parente here, I'm not sure exactly what team he's on, if he is on a team at this moment in this season. Either way, either how, still doing a phenomenal job in the top 10 at the moment as... I fixed the timing and scoring tower. More battles continue as we head into the 10th lap of the race here. Just about 20 minutes into our hour-long event. John Lazan, Logan McKenzie side by side once again here. Who's going to be the first onto the brakes? And I think that was John on that time around, but still, whoa! A little bit too much juice there and through the grass, I'm sure. That is definitely going to have a little bit of a frowny face coming from the race control booth, but no harm, no foul. No other drivers were involved in that. So, I mean, all things considered, I don't think John Lazan really did anything wrong, but I'm sure race control definitely going to be giving him a stern talking to after that little bit of a drive through the grass there. Ultimately didn't come away with anything, no gain positions and nothing of that like. So, no harm, no foul in the grand scheme of things. As Connor Octella, Edward Gorman continue the fight for the lead. The number 55 driver trying his best to pull away from Edward. But Edward doing a fantastic job staying right near the tail here of Connor in that number 55. Now let's see if over time Connor will, I mean, really what I'm going to be curious to see here is if Connor's going to scrub those tires a lot sooner than that of Edward. Just based on what we saw a little bit ago where Edward really had a lot of pace underneath that 137 machine. Now, whether or not that is just purely because Edward has a faster line or something along those lines, but I definitely think that these two have been going at it for quite some time, and I can't imagine that tire saving is really too much in their mindsets at this point. So, again, curious to see how that's going to play out over the course of the hour-long race here, but we'll, again, just have to see how things play out for these drivers and for the field, as a lot of the field is starting to find a little bit of room to work with between one another. As we're still locked in here on the battle for the lead. We'll come back a little bit further in the field for the battle for 19th, as Kirk Lane and Kirby Govilian here in the A81 and the 88 machine Not taking things too aggressively between these two, but definitely putting a good fight between one another. As Kirby Lane going to find himself on the outside coming into the boot section. And into the toe. Kirby Kovilian able to work his way into the 19th place spot. And Kirk Lane now going to try and see if he can get into chase mode and put up a fight here to potentially take that position back if he can do so. Micah Hendricks now going to be putting the pressure to David Bauer, the number 35 breakfast for dinner machine. Going to be alongside Micah Hendricks there for a moment as they enter into the bus stop. David Bauer still going to be out in front here in that 4th place position. But Micah right on the bumper of that 35 machine. But up ahead, Edward Gorman makes the pass for the lead. The 137 driver going for the very first time going to be the race leader. 23 minutes into our hour-long event here today at Watkins Glen. Edward Gorman, I'm sure, going to be feeling ecstatic. And looking at timing and scoring, may potentially be able to may be able to build quite a bit of distance between himself and Connor at this point in time. Whether or not he's going to capitalize, well, I'm not sure what much there is to capitalize on at this moment, but what I can say is if timing and scoring is anything to go by, if what we're seeing at the moment is anything to go by, I think Connor's got a good chance to, at least stay within eyesight of Edward. But whether or not he's going to have something up his sleeve here, kind of saved up for later, if you will, in that 55 machine, it's got to be questionable at this point. Like I was mentioning a little bit earlier about tire wear, a little bit concerned about that, given how much these two drivers were pushing, but the same could also be said for Edward Gorman. It's just Edward seems to look a little bit more comfortable pushing at this point in time. And even as I say that, coming down the straight here at Watkins, Connor's still able to reel in that 137. So if he can stay consistent here with the current gap that he has, again, Connor isn't exactly out of the game here, so to speak, at this moment. Yellow Flag Motorsports drivers in breakfast for dinner. Driver David Bauer, Logan McKenzie side by side as they come through the chute and are about to enter into the toe of the boot. Micah Hendricks just up ahead in the 473 machine. McKenzie Bauer remain nearly side by side as they come through the toe. And Zepka almost kind of acting like, almost kind of feels like they're just kind of escorting Bauer and McKenzie at this moment. You know, you have Zepka in the back and Hendricks in the front, and it's like, all right, you guys got to stay between us. But excellent racing between these drivers nonetheless, and a lot of battles starting to reform here. As tire wear starts to be a factor here for a lot of these drivers. I would have to imagine that I'm not exactly 100% certain what a pit stop, a pit stop window would actually look like for these cars. Again, this is only my second time doing a broadcast for these kinds of cars, so I'm not 100% certain on what a full stint is like for these cars. I don't even know if they could go the full hour they potentially could. I have no idea. Someone in the chat might have to fill me in on that one, because again, this is the first race that we're doing an hour-long format instead of last week's setup where we had a 20-minute and 30-minute setup. So with that being said, it's kind of going to be up in the air for myself as far as guessing when these drivers are going to want to come in. We're approaching the 30-minute mark, and no one showed any signs yet of coming in here, and it doesn't necessarily seem like there's too many drivers struggling too badly at this point. So again, I don't think anyone's going to be coming in soon, but we'll give it another 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If no one comes in by then, I don't think they're going to need to come in at all here, just given from what I've seen. They might have fuel cells big enough. I frankly have no idea. I don't know these cars well enough, and I probably should change that if I intend to stick around here, which I fully intend on doing, as this is some great racing, and I frankly would not want to be anywhere else. As it looks like Noel Fulgenci gonna find himself, real tough spot here for the 97 driver, and he's gonna have to get some assistance bringing that car back to pit road, it looks like, because I don't know if that car is gonna be able to drive its way back under its own power. Maybe it could, but perhaps not at race speeds, if you will. I just want to take this moment to thank everyone who's tuning in here today and enjoying the racing here tonight. It's great to have everyone who's showing their support in the chat, as well as just being here and seeing their favorite drivers turn laps and seeing what they can do here tonight at Watkins Glen and throughout this season. It's great to have all the support from the fans, and it also is great for us up here, for myself up here in the booth. It gives me someone to interact with during the show, and really kind of engage with you folks at home and try and make it feel a little bit more of a personalized experience rather than something that you would find on TV that, let's see, how can I say this? Never mind. That was going to be a corny joke, but anyway. I appreciate everyone who tunes in week after week. I know this is only the second race that we've had here for the Alpha Touring Challenge, but for those of you that might be tuning in who have been long time or maybe even recent subscribers of the Team Goon Squad channel here on YouTube, again, thank you for being a part of the Team Goon Squad family and for showing your support for the leagues that we cover. Great battles happening on our screens at the moment, though. Matt Zepka right on the tail of David Bauer, the number 35 driver, seeing potentially a little bit of the paint of that 490 getting rubbed off on the bumper of that number 35 machine. And here it is, Adrian Fedorowski. Going to be the first driver to come down into pit road. It does not look to be for reasons of, whoa, a little bit of a Tokyo Drift action once again here from David Bauer, John Lazan, or excuse me, Matt Zepka. These drivers trying to find their way into Formula Drift. You know, maybe they can find a career, you know, ripping around 1,000 horsepower drift machines. I mean, I'd love to see that. That'd be kind of fun. Anyway, great battles here for the, whoa. That was an interesting hit. It was so interesting that timing and scoring didn't even register. Oh, there it is. Oh, come on. You're not even going to back it up all the way? Come on. All right, let's try and make this quick here. Race is still racing. Oh, he just got pinched right between the railing and another car. The Spotify number 93 machine of Trevor Lambert Lee to find himself down in the pits here as a trickle of drivers also start to do the same. Slugnificent, Micah Hendricks, the next couple drivers to make their way into the pits here as well. Looks like Jerome Bojules as well also in here. David Bauer just now making his way in the number 35 Breakfast for Dinner machine. And I gotta say, I'm really fond of the Breakfast for Dinner liveries on these cars. I mean, that's just clean. I love that. That's just simple, clean, you know, it's just great. Chef's kiss. Fantastic. But there's also a lot of other really, really nice cars out here tonight. A lot of really great paint schemes and a lot of great color usage, particularly here for Matt Zepka. Oh boy, I gotta remember their team name again. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Kind of reminds me of the oh boy, what was it called? It was on the cups back in like the early 90s or late 90s and early 2000s. I can't remember the specific design that it was called, but it reminds me of that in a small way. I know there was a name for it, but I can't remember it at this moment. So I would say roughly about half of the drivers have made their way here into pit road. You can see that on the left-hand side of your screen. If there's nothing next to their name, that means they have not come in into pit road yet, but they will at some point, I would hope. But you can see at the moment your top 10 have yet to make their way into the pits, while the other half starts to make their way. Into the pits here as well. And here goes Matt Zepka down here into pit road. Craig Laudenslager right on the tail of Scott Weeb here as we tune into the battle for 9th place. Starting to develop here. And looking at chat, it was a Vaporwave. I knew it. Oh, I thought that was like something else. Or was it Jazz Cup? Jazz Cups? That's what it's called? Hold on a second. Jazz Cups? That's what it's actually called. Wow, they're called Jazz. Okay, I thought that was something else. Anyway, we're getting way off topic here talking about cups when we should be talking about racing. Slugnificent Micah Hendricks, the battle for 7th place, starting to develop here as they work their way out of turn number 1. Excuse me. Slugnificent going to be almost, or excuse me, Micah going to be almost right on the rear wing, touching bumpers here with Slugnificent as they're going to come out of the S's and onto the long straightaway. He's also got some help, Micah Hendricks does, of Matt Zepka, his teammate just behind, as they make their way through the bus stop. Slugnificent going to manage to, whoa, both drivers slide their way through the bus stop. You don't see that too often, but both drivers doing a phenomenal job keeping it clean through the bus stop here. Slugnificent now going to be the meat in the sandwich between Micah Hendricks and Matt Zepka. I can't really think of a worse position to be in as far as a driver, being right smack dab in the middle of not necessarily, well, your opponents, I guess is the best way to describe it, but seeing the top 5 make their way down into pit lane here, we can see Edward Gorman, Connor Acatella, Logan McKenzie, John Lazan, Andrew Parente, Justin Rhodes all start to make their way down into pits and get that fresh set of tires, as well as fill up on fuel, get themselves ready to go here for their next run, their final run here of the night. About just under 25 minutes left to go before we see the checkered flag here tonight. Micah Hendricks, as they are about to cross the line, move up a few positions with other drivers down in pit road. But as they took a little bit of an undercut strategy here, if you will, coming in a little bit earlier on lap 16, just a few laps earlier, they are going to manage to stay potentially in these positions here. So working out in the favor of Logan McKenzie, Micah Hendricks, Lugnificent, and the remaining drivers that have just recently made their way down into pit roads. Strategies being played out here and seeming to work very well for Team Curb Your Enthusiasm. Edward Gorman as well, taking a very huge risk coming into the pits and risking having to fight his way back up into the front here. But the 137 driver managing to stay out ahead and is still leading with a nearly 4.5 second gap between himself and Connor Acatella, and that gap is only improving here between himself and Connor. So Edward Gorman doing an absolutely fantastic job here in the 137 Honda. As it looks like I was trying to find a team for Mr. Edward here, but it looks like he is going to be another solo driver here as well. But that is all right. It is always great to see drivers performing well on their own, and always great to see drivers that are coming together to help one another and really fight as a team. Some drivers, that's the way they like to do things. Others, not quite their flavor. But that is the lovely thing about this series and a lot of other series that are on the iRacing service, is that oftentimes you can choose. You don't always have to race with someone, and that is always something that I fear, is being stuck with someone that is going to be way better than me, and I am just going to be a major handicap throughout the race. Micah Hendricks, Logan McKenzie, a drag race down the straight, and both kind of weaving around just a little bit, trying to break up a little bit of that air behind Micah Hendricks. It looked like there for a split second. I may have just been seeing things, but it definitely looked like a little bit of shaking and baking happening there for just a moment. But Micah Hendricks, for the time being, is staying out ahead of the 04 machine of Logan McKenzie. Going to retain that third place spot, but Logan is definitely on the hunt here for that podium finish, and I don't think he's going to give up anytime soon here. With 20 minutes left to go, he has got a lot of time to work with here, and all you really have to have as a driver at this point in a race is patience. Patience is going to be key, but it's, all of these drivers are going to be looking for the same thing, one of them to make a mistake. But if you can stay consistent, if you can hit the same marks as close as you can every single time, you will generally be a-okay. But once you start to get that pressure in your mirrors, some drivers it's easier to shake it off than others. But for those that it's not as easy, it can definitely start to affect you when you see that hood just almost feeling like it's starting to bump into the back end of you. I just realized that I have had the pit lap count on the left side of the screen for quite some time now, but we have gone ahead and fixed that here. As John Lazan, Matt Zepka, currently the closest battle that we have on track at the moment, the battle for 6th place. Here, as we have a pack of about 5 or 6 drivers, and side by side, John Lazan goes with Matt Zepka through the bus stop. And Lazan gets sent right into the barrier, getting the short stick of the deal. We'll take a look at this here, and there it is. He gets the slide as he goes through the grass. The contact to the side of the 490 of Zepka sends him like an arrow. The 77 machine, the front end, heavily damaged. And John Lazan, unfortunately, going to take it back to pit road. Very unfortunate hit for John Lazan, and I would have to imagine Micah Hendricks is going to have suffered, or excuse me, John Lazan. No, that wasn't John Lazan. That was that was Micah Hendricks. That's exactly who I was talking about. Anyway, I'm more than certain that Micah could have potentially, or no, that was Zepka we were talking about. Ah, jeez. Either way, Zepka, I'm more than certain, is going to have some damage to the side of that 490, and trying to look at it through the cameras here, doesn't seem like there's much at all, if any. So Zepka might have really lucked out in that situation, and again, John Lazan just taking a huge, huge loss in that contact. We're tuning into the battle for 13th. Craig Loudenslager under fire from Kirby Kuvillian. Number 88 Audi machine. Currently the second hard charger of the race here, up 15 positions from where he started at the beginning of things. And Kirby looking to improve upon that here as he's right on the tail of Craig as we head into turn 1 and about to head through the S's here. Just under a half a second separating these drivers here at the moment. But our actual hard charger of the race here, Mr. Adrian Fedorowski, the number 22 Honda machine, currently up 16 positions from where he started at the beginning of today's race, and looking quite confident here at this point, having quite a bit of room to work with and not much to worry about in the way of traffic. As we can take a look at the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the track map on the bottom right-hand side and get a little bit of an idea of where everyone is currently at here, as we are just about 15 minutes left to go. Whoa! Great recovery here from Craig Loudenslager as he enters into the grass for a moment as they were heading through the carousel. Or the chute, excuse me, not the carousel, I'm wrong track. So at this moment in the race, Edward Gorman still our race leader and still doing a phenomenal job of keeping distance between himself and the rest of the field and continuing to build upon that distance, as he's nearly about 8.5 seconds between Connor Acatella in that second place spot here at the moment. So Edward, definitely the man to beat here tonight, and I'm sure is definitely potentially going to have a little bit of a target, so to speak, on his back for next race. Being the fast man here tonight, I am curious to see what his thoughts are going to be as we conclude this race here tonight. Next week we head to Charlotte. We head to Charlotte Motor Speedway, where we will see a similar setup. Similar race style to what we saw here tonight, a 60-minute race instead of the 20-30 setup that we've had for Long Beach. So another hour-long race, another week of pit stops for drivers, and a very interesting track well, not interesting in a bad way, but the fact that we're heading to Charlotte, well, makes me smile a little bit. But what makes me smile even more is the battle for second place between Connor Acatella, Micah Hendricks. Contact between the two drivers as they come through turn one. Heading through the S's now, almost door-to-door between these two drivers as they exit the S's and onto the long straightaway. Hendricks gonna be to the right-hand side of Connor Acatella here. And Connor, whoa, hold up a second. I'm a little confused by this. Did he... He aborted that for one reason or another. Interesting. Okay. Well, an interesting development here for Connor Acatella. I'm not exactly... He might have just felt the car wanting to slide away from him and aborted as quickly as he could. I'm not 100% certain on that. Based on from what I could tell, it seemed like he could have still made it through the bus stop, but again, I'm not 100% certain on what the plan was behind that decision. Now, as things have finally, seems like it wasn't going to happen, but things have relatively settled out for this field. And with a fair bit of distance between most of these drivers and just about 10 minutes left to go, 11 minutes technically left to go here before we see the checkered flag, I am still just blown away at how fantastic the racing has been here with not only the folks here at Alpha Touring Challenge, but with the touring cars here on the iRacing service. I frankly should have known about it sooner, is the only way to describe it. But what better way to find out about this fantastic discipline of motorsport than to work with the fine folks here at Alpha Touring Challenge and bring you all the action live here every Monday night. I don't think I would have it any other way, and I hope that everyone's enjoying the action at the moment as we gear up for the final 10 minutes here at Watkins Glen for race number 2 of the Alpha Touring Challenge season number 8. Zach Perry, Craig Loudenslager, and Kirby Kovillian gonna take it almost 3. Well, it looked like there for a second with the camera angle, but fighting through the bus stop, and Kirby Kovillian right on the tail of Craig Loudenslager in the number 7 Hyundai. The 88 Audi trying to do everything in his power to really put the pressure here on Craig. But Craig is not having any of it. Goes a little bit too wide on the exit through the chute and into the grass there, but just a little bit. And there it is. The door is open for Kirby. Just a little bit to potentially get alongside him. Not quite enough exit pace out, or exit speed out of the toe as they approach the heel of the boot here at Watkins Glen. 9 minutes left to go here in our race today. And Edward Gorman only a few laps before he finds himself in victory lane. If things all go well and nothing goes wrong in the way of mistakes here for the top 3, essentially, it could very well be A great day here for Edward Gorman, Micah Hendricks, and Logan McKenzie. And as I mentioned, Edward Gorman, I believe not... Yes, Edward Gorman, I believe, is not officially on a team, according to the document that I have here at the moment. But Edward is definitely going to be making a name for himself here today with Micah Hendricks for Team Curb Your Enthusiasm and Logan McKenzie with Team Yellow Flag Motorsports. So all three drivers and, well, 2 teams are going to have a great day for points here at Watkins Glen, and a lot of great battles that have happened throughout the day, and I'm sure a lot of these drivers are going to be, well, depending on the situation, I think a lot of these drivers are going to be very pleased with the action that has happened throughout today's race. A lot of great side-by-side action. And only a handful of drivers, less than a handful realistically, of drivers who have taken it behind the pit wall and have called it a night here. But like I've mentioned, it is still plenty of drivers out on track here at the moment, all still fighting for position and waiting to see if in the final moments of the race, if anyone's going to get a little antsy. Waiting to wrap things up here if any mistakes are going to be made here. But with how experienced this field is, I can't imagine that it's going to happen here, but you never know. Both teammates, Logan McKenzie and Slugnificent, both of these teammates trailing along with one another here. The relatively, I wouldn't say a battle for 3rd place, but they could definitely turn up the heat here in the final few minutes that we have left here, just to make things interesting amongst themselves. But Andrew Parente, David Bauer, the battle for 6th place, definitely starting to heat up here between these 2 drivers as we ride on the front nose camera of the 35 machine and get a good look at how he is attempting to track down the 15 of Andrew Parente. A good shot right into the muffler of the 15, but onto the back straightaway and into the bus stop. Andrew Parente a little early on the brakes there, a little earlier on the brakes there than David. David's going to have the better entry and going to make that move up into 6th place here, making it look easy, and things happen in the blink of an eye here. But having the confidence to outbrake your opponent is, oh boy, not an easy skill to acquire. Some battles forming back here in 12th place here. Loose battles, mind you, but still drivers looking to potentially push the limits here in the final few minutes and maybe gain another position if they can. But you definitely don't want to be overly aggressive, especially on what would be considered, well, actually at this point, for a lot of these drivers, they are fighting older tires than when they first came down into pit road. So entering a little bit new territory for some of these drivers, but they still are going to be pushing as much as they possibly can, and we're seeing that here from Kirby, the number 88 Audi, as he's still on the tail of Zach Perry in the number 56 Hyundai. And Slugnificent remains on the tail of Logan McKenzie as they head through the toe of the boot. And Slugnificent trying to close the gap here, and timing and scoring showing that he just might be able to do so here with the pace he's currently got. But will he be able to make that pass happen here around the 04 driver with only about 2 minutes left to go before the checkered flag is flown? Being that both of these two drivers are teammates, I, again, can't imagine that they're going to be putting up too much of a fight between one another. Kirby Kovillian staying still on the tail of Zach Perry as we enter into nearly the final minute here and through the heel section. And realistically, Kirby has got, seems to be he's got the pace to be able to get around Zach, but he's got to have that door, he's got to have that opening in order to make it happen, and Zach really isn't granting him many opportunities to do so. Zach is doing a phenomenal job of staying consistent here in what will be theoretically this will be these drivers' last lap here. Logan McKenzie, Slugnificent, still the battle for third place underway. But even more so back here in the battle for 12th place continues. Kirby Kovillian, Zach Perry, side by side through the bus stop. As Perry, he's able to work his way up ahead, or still keeps his spot there in 12th. And Kirby giving it all that he can here, but will not quite be enough for this time by. The checkered flag is out, however. Edward Gorman already coming across the line for the win. Micah Hendricks in second, and Logan McKenzie in your third place finish. But we'll keep with the battle here for 12th place as it continues for the final time. And we'll see who will come away victorious between these two in this battle for 12th place. And it looks like Zach Perry, if he can keep it calm and steady here through the final few turns. Calm and steady, one turn left to go. And That's all you need, and only inches separating themselves from the wall here as well, pushing the limits here on the final lap and across the line. And a long race concluded for these drivers. Edward Gorman, your race winner. As we're going to go ahead and take a look at post-race results and get ourselves ready for post-race interviews. There it is. Post-race results up on our screens now. Edward Gorman, your race winner. Micah Hendricks in second place, and Logan McKenzie coming away with your third place spot. Going up in the booth first, we will have Logan McKenzie up here in our booth. Logan, sir, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your third place finish here tonight. An absolutely impressive finish here for you tonight, Logan. I mean, it was a really tough race, I think, a little bit towards the beginning with traffic kind of all scrambling to try and find a little bit of room to work with. But once everyone was able to get a little bit of distance between one another, things kind of settled out, and you weren't necessarily worried too much about getting into incidents with other drivers and things like that. You can keep your head down and just focus on turning laps. But Logan, I mean, with all things considered, I mean, what was kind of your expectations coming into Watkins Glen, and do you think it kind of played out the way that you expected it to?
In some ways, it played out very similarly to how I would have expected it, but in other ways, it kind of threw a curveball. You know, two of the faster guys, Francois and Waj, weren't here, and that kind of opened up the top 10 for, like, we were just all even closer in pace. Those first like 10-15 laps, different cars were better at different spots. The temp was going up all the time. People were coming and going, so it was really interesting. Some people were fuel saving, and I think you saw that play out in the pit stops, where I came out much further ahead than Micah and Slug, and I didn't think I'd even be ahead of them, but I think I got lucky and they fought on their in-lap. That got me ahead of Slug. Didn't have the pace to keep Micah behind, but that's okay. I'll totally take a podium here. Yeah, it was a pretty straightforward drive after this first 20-30 minutes.
Well, Logan, I mean, with yourself finishing on pole and with your other teammates, Magnificent and Connor, just behind you in 4th and 5th place, I mean, for your team, it was an overall fantastic points day for Yellow Flag Motorsports. I mean, you guys, I think out of all of the teams that were here tonight, I think probably undoubtedly you guys came away with the most points team-wise and maybe even driver-wise as well when things are all broken down. But that's not necessarily the grand scope of the focus of tonight here. But what's kind of your takeaway from tonight, and how are you guys going to kind of take this momentum and apply it next week as we head to, I already forgot what track we're heading to next week, Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one. I think, we performed very well here with Slug and I being able to get up towards the middle of the top 10 while Connor was up front. And then Eric snuck into the top 10 at the end. I mean, we're all in the top 10. I think, we've all run a lot of laps here. It's the practice, you put in the practice and you get rewarded. And we were able to keep it clean for the most part. I think I had a couple of touch and go moments with maybe Micah and David there. I know that Slug and Connor had their fair share of close calls. So, no, I think it was a great team performance. One of the best we've had in a long, long time, I think. So, congrats to all the guys.
Well, Logan, congrats to you. Congrats to your team. You guys did absolutely fantastic. And before I let you go and celebrate with your teammates and fellow drivers, anyone you want to shout out and thank before you head out of the booth tonight?
Shout out to Slug. You know, he came back this season after basically a season hiatus, and he's smashed it so far, and it's great to see him back. Great to be racing with him again. He deserved this podium just as much as I did. Could have been either one of us. And shout out to Edward. You know, at the last race of season 7, he picks up his first career win. Now he's right back to it, winning again in race 2 here. So great drive by him.
Well, Logan, thank you for joining us up here in the booth, and I appreciate your time and hopefully get to talk to you more throughout the season. But for the time being, congratulations on your podium finish, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Charlotte.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. Alrighty, folks, so that was Logan McKenzie out of the booth here, coming away with your third place finish. And up next, we have Mr. Micah Hendricks coming away in second place here tonight. Micah, both you and Edward for a little bit there, you guys kind of were swapping back and forth. Well, not necessarily swapping back and forth, but you guys had a little bit of battle there for in the earlier laps of the race here tonight. But once things kind of got separated, you guys kind of were in your own ballpark, your own area codes, if you will. And Edward, we'll get to him in a little bit here. But Micah, I mean, you know, you had great pace out there tonight. You had really seemed confident out there. Was there any sort of practice that you put in coming into the night that led you to your second place finish tonight, or was it kind of just a arrive and drive sort of situation for yourself here tonight?
No, I put in, I don't know, 30 or 40 laps before the race, the practice session beforehand, and just turned a lot of laps here at Watkins, and pretty comfortable with the setup on my Civic. So not a lot of my time is wasted or used with setup, and it's more that I can just focus on driving lines and getting down into that rhythm of things.
Well, and for yourself and for your team, I mean, Matt Zepka in 8th place. I mean, both of you finishing in the top 10, that's got to be a great feeling for both yourself and your teammate. Now, looking forward into Charlotte Motor Speedway, a very different track, a very different dynamic that we're kind of heading into. Is it kind of going to be the same mentality applied there, where you're going to be utilizing practice to really get the most out of, well, the most results out of that practice and out of that race?
I think so. It just so happens that Charlotte's actually my favorite track on the whole surface for the touring cars. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And you know, it was just another really good race tonight. It was pretty gloves off out there for a lot of the race, but nothing too crazy to take some cars out of contention, which was nice.
A definite amount of elbows out moments that I could definitely see throughout the race. I mean, excuse me, especially towards the beginning, and really kind of throughout the race, really. There was a lot of great battles that were happening. But Micah, excuse me, as I have a bit of the coughs here, but Micah, before I let you go here and do your celebrating with your teammates and fellow drivers, anyone that you would like to shout out and thank before you go tonight?
I'd like to, go down the roster here and shout out Edward for another really good win for him. You know, took control of the race, took advantage of a good starting position, and put down nice, consistent laps and made a pass on Connor when he needed to. So big shout out to him. And then also Logan and the whole Yellow Flag crew out there. That was some door-to-door racing with all those guys. So it was difficult being in a Yellow Flag sandwich, but I was able to make the most of it. And then shout out to Matt Zepka, actually, he hopped on, did 10 laps of practice and went on racing. So shout out to him for a good result.
Well, I'd say a top 10 finish out of a 25 car field. That'd make me feel pretty good about myself. So, Micah, yep. Thank you for joining me up here in the booth, and congratulations on your podium finish here tonight. Certainly look forward to seeing you here in the future, and hopefully get to talk to you again next week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one. Thank you.
You as well. Alrighty, folks, so that was Micah Hendricks out of the booth, coming away with your second place finish. And last, certainly not going to be least here, the man of the hour, Mr. Edward Gorman, coming away with the win in the 137 Honda. Edward, how are you feeling today after a very dominating performance here today at Watkins?
Good. It was it got really hot towards the end of that race, having to save those tires towards the end, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, Edward, and kind of looking back on the race here, I mean, tire wear definitely seemed to be a little bit of a struggle. Kind of midway towards the race, it seemed like some drivers were getting a little bit loose. In some spots, not too terribly. I mean, I'll give you guys credit. You guys are phenomenal drivers. You make it look easy, but it definitely seemed like tire wear was a little bit of an issue. Did you ever have a moment where you felt like you wanted to come in a little bit earlier than you did when? I'm stumbling on my words here, but was there any point that you wanted to come in earlier or later? What was kind of your take on pit strategies here today?
I mean, when you're running in the front, you can't pit early. You'll just come out in traffic. And also for the tires, it's really the heat, not the wear in these cars. Like you can run for the better part of an hour and a half, but it's the heat that really slows these cars down. And we have a lot of tools in the car to manage it, but we still have to work on it the whole race.
Well, Edward, it seems like you've got it down to a T, and you really put on quite the show here. And with the gap that you had between yourself and Micah, you, like I mentioned a little bit ago, you were kind of in your own area code, not having to worry about too much. And looking forward into Charlotte next week, do you kind of have a little bit of the same expectations going there, or what's sort of your outlook heading to Charlotte?
It's a fun track. I like it, but I don't know how good I am at it. I'm not that good at it. Well, we'll see.
Well, I certainly look forward to it, Ed, and I appreciate your time joining me up here in the booth tonight. Before I let you go, before you get to celebrate and cracking open a well-deserved cold one, anyone out there that you want to give a shout-out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Logan and Matt, organizing this league, it's a ton of fun. Love coming out and racing here.
Well, thank you for joining me up here yet again, Edward, and congratulations on your win, and I look forward to seeing you next week and hopefully get to talk to you again there.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night. Alrighty, folks. Edward Gorman out of the booth, your race winner here tonight at Watkins Glen for round number 2 of the Alpha Touring Challenge. That is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad. We usually have a broadcast almost every night, it seems like, at this point, so there's always something to watch here on the Team Goon Squad YouTube channel. My name is Mason Heimbaugh, bringing you the action here tonight. As always, it is a pleasure to be here, and on behalf of Team Goon Squad, it is great to be here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. The folks here are absolutely incredible, and the racing is even better. So I definitely wouldn't want to be anywhere else on by Monday night, so make sure that you guys stay tuned and catch all the action that we have here coming up on Monday nights here with the Alpha Touring Challenge. Same time, same place next week as we head to Charlotte Motor Speedway, an hour-long race that we will see there. Thank you all for tuning in here tonight, and I will see you all in the next one.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away go for the first time. Nicholas Morcell, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the 1-on-1 up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, just insane.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at the Yamaha International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.